Welcome, everyone. It's love to see people here in person.
Yay. We just met an employee who started during COVID, Haley here, who's been an employee at NextJob for a year and a half, and today was the first time I ever met her. I feel like I've known her my whole life.
And I'm telling you, Haley looked shorter.
Yeah, Haley, you were taller in person.
She's taller in
The
person.
thing that annoys me.
Most have the opposite.
You're taller.
I don't know what.
You're
I'm being truthful.
Yeah, Hamish is like, what's going on? So for this lip class, just so if you're new, we use chat aggressively. If you're here in person, you're welcome to just throw out whatever you're thinking. We'll try to navigate this kind of in-person and video class. It's the first time we're doing this since pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Pre-COVID, we didn't do it like this. We would have hundreds of people come to our office and virtually a few people, so we've completely flipped it around. So let's see how this goes, right? We'll do
I
our
know
best.
usually we do like birthdays and whatever else, so if you have it, punch it in, any anniversary stuff, but if not, I want to go straight to some of the coolest topics we covered this week. So, you mind if I just start? Sure,
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, I'm going to get going, right? Is that
Yes,
okay
because
for
he's
everyone?
had 2 cold brews and
2 cold brews
we have a
and
lot to get through.
And I just want to talk a lot right now. So here's the presentation on screen, 15 slides. We added more stuff, and this is usually when Megan starts yelling at me saying, I thought we finished it last night. Why are you adding more slides?
He had more this morning.
And what I tell,
I didn't fully approve.
No,
just
wrong,
so.
sorry, mistakes here. So just to give you some context, right? Megan's begging me to not add more slides, and I was like, I swear I had a bunch of good ideas to put in. It was like a 4:35 a.m. good idea, so it can be dangerous, but nonetheless. The class we want to talk about is the difference between leadership and followership. And this is a topic that you will hear a lot, that before you become a leader, you need to become a follower, and then everyone has to be a leader. And there was this little definition that was, like Google's. To find the image, we just Google search leadership versus followership, and this is what pops up, right? And someone talked about kind of like, the differences, but we want to go into a nuanced difference within kind of this notion of not theory, but in practice. And so we're going to go into this, but before we jump into that, there was an interesting article that someone had shared. This was September 20th, so earlier this week, and Megan and I were talking about this, that I don't know how many of you feel like this, right? This feeling that just really tired. And they were saying that if you dive into the article, this is what the article had. So I'll give you a second to read it. So who's that? So Christy, I think, is like our normal reader speed. So Christy Murray, if you just thumbs up the minute you finish reading this.
Where was this article from?
It's from Time Inc. So I think if you go back, if you go to Time Inc., this guy tweeted it, Brad Stulberg. By the way, you'll see in the video, you can see this thing and then look him up and find the link. If not, ask us and we can send it to you too. But what's interesting about the article was this idea that psychological fatigue is very different than physical fatigue. And physical fatigue, and we're big into fitness and believe kind of the body-mind connection, but psychological fatigue has an element that's very similar to physical fatigue, and some of the best neuroscientists you work with said always think about the two connected, but a ratio of 15% body, 85% mind. The mind is the biggest, most powerful muscle, and oftentimes we struggle to train the mind, so we start with the body, but we have to get to the majority, which is the mind. And I love this idea and this insight of flatlining. That flatlining is associated with death. And how now, it's for us, the coffee and stuff, I feel excited seeing you guys here. Mm-hmm. Some of you are strangers, never met. Some of you are new employees that we never met for the whole time too. There's a part of what happens when human beings get together. Right, the excitement that comes. And so my daughter, who totally has me around her finger, is turning 8 in a week, I think, right? Or so. Next week. And Olivia. So this morning, I tell Olivia, when you come from after school, so by the way, all our offices, you have to be fully vaccinated, but the only 3 people not vaccinated in this office is 3 kids under 11, right? So my 12-year-old is vaccinated, but it's Megan's son, 2 sons as well as Olivia, but they're tested every week, so just if you're concerned, we're strict about vaccination. But so I tell Olivia there's gonna be a lot of people in the office, and she's like, what's going on? And I was like, well, we're trying to bring some excitement into people's lives. And her instant reaction was, you're putting the hot tub in today?
Because we're not gonna put one in, but that was her
automatic reaction.
That's excitement.
Like, you're putting in the hot tub today. And she's
No,
like,
we're just gonna see other human beings.
yeah, so she was like, do I bring my bathing suit? Is the hot tub going in today? So the hot tub is not going in today. But this notion of how do we help bring excitement? So this is the very first beta session of what we are calling premium COA. We have mentioned going way back that we believe physical is going to be the new premium. In this digital era where everyone's like, you can work from anywhere and meet everyone through Zoom and Slack and Discord and whatnot, we believe physical has a place. And you know, in e-commerce, they talk about omni-channel. You can like shop like at online, pick it up in the store. You can go in the store. If it's not there, buy it online. The idea of omni-channel is what we're trying to go for. So this is the first beta session. 3 offices we have where a lot of our users are in these offices. You can travel to. It's a big thing every Thursday, right? Every Thursday, turning our offices into community day. You can see the locations, and the offices have done a lot of work, and they're still working. This is a copy of the New York schedule. It's a little blurry. It's a picture of our hair salon in the office. We have 2 of them. Picture of our Pilates room. A lot of fun stuff going on. The chefs alone are like out of control, and the amount of food is totally excessive, which is why you're either going to have to work out or throw up or do something else. You just have to, like, you know, like,
too much coffee and not enough filtering.
Consume the food though, because, and then by the way, because we're worried about waste, we also have takeout containers, so you can take home as much as you want. So if you want to eat for the next like week, I think we'll probably have enough food. But taking advantage of all the services, and then the one last piece is this. This is the menu our team put together for today, which, once again, they're training. It's a little excessive in my view, because I'm not sure that you're going to be able to eat every hour like of the day, minus 1 hour or so, but snacks included.
With dessert.
And then, by the way, this is a picture of my 2 kids, right? Well, the terrace opened up in our office. It's a roughly 4,000 square foot rooftop terrace connected to the whole food area, kitchen, food. And so starting next week, the goal is to go out of beta. So going out of beta, so next Thursday, means that anybody can go and reserve. We'll have limited seating. Physical is unlike digital. We have limited by office. And so like the reservations Friday open up at 12 o'clock, 12:15 for non-5-star members. And so we put like a little token thing, 2,500 WOW points for a day pass, which means, you know, come do your work here. We will have office space, Wi-Fi printers, more snacks, drinks, social, sleep classes, learning lectures. We even have a bartender coming at 5, at least in New York. I don't know what other places are doing. So social hour and whatnot. And I think they had put like 8 to 10. And so then like Mary and I were like, are they going to go by 10? And I was like, you know what? I hope at some point they decide to leave. But like, it's like our home. We want to welcome you in. 2,500 WOW points is basically $25. You can't buy it with cash. So like if you buy whatever you buy on our site on e-commerce, which is on Perks at Work, you earn points pretty easily. This is a pretty easy number to earn, but it's kind of, yeah, come. And then those will also seed some of your accounts to get you to come try it. But yeah. First one, a little excited.
It's fun to see Linda Wackerman. She's at the airport right now eating her soup, but she's a pilot.
Yeah,
we can just get her plane, and you can just fly everybody here,
like,
Linda.
No, she's so hardcore. She's like, yeah,
so
I'm about to now go
hardcore.
fly the 747 Jumbo, whatever.
She's so hardcore.
Like, it's like, yes. We got some cool people within this community. So
yes. I love how Katie Poe is saying that's more food than they eat in a week.
yeah, no.
Wait till you see how we bring it, Katie Poe, to this 305 dance class.
Yeah, and Katie,
like you've never seen.
You could see how much I and Mackie can eat.
Oh
it will like be like, wow.
That's why I had to leave while you guys were eating, because it's like that cinnamon donut was so good.
Okay. All right. So going to the lesson, right? And so for those of you in the virtual, use chat. Please keep using chat. And then those of you who take notes, I want to ask this question, right? What is the work? You know, a lot of people who come to see us always ask us, when do you get work done? Right? They see us do when do you get work done? And the question that we don't ask is, well, what is the work? So I want you to punch into chat in your view, what is the work? I know for Linda it's flying a plane, but what else? I know you don't fly all the time. So eating soup, hanging out in lounges, listening to lip class, but like, punch it. Like, for you, honestly, what is the work? What is the work that you actually do versus maybe what you should do? Right, so networking.
And just so you know, Monica,
Planning, selling,
people asking, how did I get an
relationships.
invitation this week, by the way? It's opening up live next week. We just kind of didn't invite only Monica to a select group of people. We're just testing this week, but you got to sign up for next week. Relationships, interesting.
Okay. Much underrated.
Moving the ball
Thinking,
forward.
Moving the ball forward. Programs and projects.
Managing portfolios, communicating with clients, focusing.
Building a culture. Look, like Linda's like got the playbook of like everything 21st century just punching in. She's like, I have it saved on my phone. I'm just gonna punch it in line by line.
Creating something new or creating some new
All right.
things?
Obviously, these people have been trained way too much because they're answering all the right things as opposed to all the wrong stuff. So now I'm helping me make my point. A lot of people, when you actually think of what you do on a daily basis, on the left side here is what work used to be in the industrial age in the 20th century is very routine in nature, it's repeated, and it's clearly prescribed tasks each day. Think about what you do when you start work, even when you're at home. There's like the work stuff is very routine and repetitive in nature. And how work has changed is that you have to apply your own judgment in decision making, but you have to do it in teams, right? Because the obvious stuff is done. And this guy, Roger Martin, I love the way you put it. We'll talk about this topic in more detail, but creativity intense jobs.
Intensive, yeah.
Right, intensive jobs. That's the new work. And creativity, by the way, by definition means it didn't exist before, right? It's not something that someone, like as in you're inventing something. And some of the litmus tests are when you came into work on Monday, right? We talked about the notion of decision making in the military, they call it OODA loops. By end of day Monday or by early Tuesday, did you make a decision, put something into action that you had no idea you were even gonna do when you walked in on Monday? That's creativity done in an intensive way.
It's interesting what Monica's saying, because we're going to touch on this later, but work is waking up every day for something I don't enjoy doing. The job I enjoy doesn't necessarily, I wouldn't necessarily call it work, right? This notion of like passion, I'm not passionate about that. I want to get paid for what I'm passionate about.
Yes.
What I do every day doesn't make me happy, so
Actually, that's a really interesting part, because all of us have this, I don't know, nirvana thought of like, when I think of work, I want something that I do in my sleep. I love doing so much that like you don't have to even pay me, right? It's like watching a good movie or a good series like Game of Thrones.
Wish you could get paid to watch Game of Thrones.
Or a book that imagine getting paid to watch Game of Thrones, right? Wow. And how many seasons that was? I mean, and you have Bay chef feeding you while you do that, and 305 giving you a workout in between, so you don't get too unhealthy.
That's the dream.
But but this idea of work requires doing hard stuff, right? Stuff that maybe I'm not good at, maybe stuff that I don't want to do. And so how do I balance that? I kind of want this nirvana where I always just love going to work and I'm skipping and, it's like, I'll just do it in my sleep. I dream about it, right? Well, that's binge watching Game of Thrones. And that's
They always say, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. Isn't that what people say? If you love what you do, you'll never.
But
then that makes you feel like shit when you're having a bad day.
Yes.
There's other people who are so happy that they feel like they're just doing their hobby.
Yes.
That must be nice, right?
The notion of leadership in practice versus theory is this. You read quotes like this and you're thinking that's what I should be doing every day. And when you have a day or a window like we are, right? Top Google searches coming up of why am I so tired? Do you just feel even crappier? Because now all of those quotes suddenly make you feel worse. Yeah. Maybe you're the only one. You go on Instagram and you feel like, am I the only one having a really bad
it's interesting.
year and a half or a year or 6 months or a month?
And Chris Kelly is saying it's why she works at Disneyland. But you still have rough days at Disneyland, right?
I've seen some angry Disney people. As soon as they think no one's watching, right? Just literally look around the corners when they are out of character hats off.
I love that someone has to clean the bathroom, right? The idea that that's not fun, But it's so interesting, sorry.
So
I was at Maid for 8 years. You can make that fun if you have to, right? You can find a way. You can, right? And this is where we're going to go into narrative. And we're going to go into how to do that.
So we're going to go into to me, what I love is the true test of being skilled at something is succeeding when it's difficult. Succeeding when it's easy is not a good test. Last week, we had dinner with this woman, like if you ever watched the show Billions, I think I mentioned this or maybe didn't. If you ever watched the show Billions, you know that there's a woman, Wendy, she's like the psychologist who like motivates someone to do crazy stuff, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
But in the show, so we had dinner with a real live Wendy, right? The actual woman who the show is based on. And she's written up as the most powerful woman in the hedge fund world. And like, she's talking about 11,000 hedge funds, right? These are like some of the smartest people, a lot of money. And they were all doing well around a year ago. And it looked like everyone knew what they were doing. Well, the market got really bad now for the last, however many months. And now they're all dying. And you know what happens is you could try to win a race when the tide is up and it's just easy to win. Money's falling out of the sky. Or, you know what? It's like the tide went down, there's a drought like in California, and will you win? They're both hard races, actually. One race has a lot of noise, and the other race is like just really tough, but there's less competition. Like there's this notion of like, I want to find the easy pockets. Life is full of hard stuff. And the true test of your skill is how you do in those hard times. So this slide I'm showing you, I'm going to break this down and walk you through, was a discussion Megan and I had coaching several different people this week. So I'm going to break this down and help walk through what is the difference between leadership and followership, as well as answer this question, what is the work? So starting with the very top, I'm going to kind of quench your thirst on what's in the slides, if you stay with me. Lagging results, the circle on the right, versus leading signals. I think of output versus input. We are way too obsessed with output, the results. And we don't realize that we need to become more input obsessed. If you put in the right inputs, it shows up in output. But we keep saying, well, you know what, here's my goal, I want to get this. I don't care how many times you say I want to get this, ain't gonna happen unless you change something on the inputs. And one of our investors is the former CFO at Chase, and she's the one who gave me first this language of lagging versus leading. Lagging results is what she would call accounting. You're just looking backwards to see what happened. And almost anyone can do that. Yes, some people do it better than others. And so oftentimes lagging is like, it's like after the fact, right? It's like, you know, on Monday morning after the football game and Sunday, you can talk about how you knew who was gonna win. Well, it's easy once the results are out. Most things like that they teach in school is based on case studies and stuff where the outcomes already happened. You can talk about how Enron was bad, right? But it's like, we know because they, you know, did really bad. The hardest part is around this notion of leading. Leading signals of success or leading signals of failure. And this is a constantly moving and changing notion of signals, metrics, numbers, whatever you want to call it. Like sometimes just gut data points, and they're always changing. If you're parenting, right, talk about watching leading signals of my son or daughter, good things happening, bad things happening, and the single best machine that exists today, and probably for the next at least 100 years, to be able to read leading signals, navigating darkness and unknown, are human beings and teams. Meaning we have an intuitive compass that says good or bad. Right? You might all deny and say, oh, I hold judgment. I call BS. We all instantly think good or bad, and then we try to match more data points. You say, yeah, definitely good or definitely bad. And I always use that example of when you ever go on a first date, as you approach the person sitting down, you're thinking good thing or bad thing. Ooh, taller than I thought. Ooh, like, you know, looks bitchier than I thought. Whatever it might be, right? Good thing, bad thing. And then you sit and you validate and validate. Right?
You're in rare form today. So excited. So excited.
But so we went through and said, let's break this down. Let's break down this leading component. What happens, right? And this notion of what is the work? Well, the work, on one hand, is to go in, get success, make success. Every single one of us who has a job, you're supposed to help the enterprise get successful. That's your job. But what does that even mean? And how do you break it down? So on the very right of lagging results, the results, right? On the very right, number 4, results. Well, before results show up, usually you need others to jump in. Meaning rarely can you succeed without others following and jumping in on a strategy and a plan. Then you go backwards, but before people jump in, they're looking for momentum. But before momentum occurs, you need to have the right mindset, the right narrative. And so this 1, 2, 3, 4, leadership is 1 and 2. And if you look what I wrote under 2, fear. When you are not growing, when you're not having momentum, when you're not moving, fear grows. Momentum squashes fear. They're like opposites of each other. And so as you grow, as you move, as you gain momentum, you can kill fear, you can shrink fear. And eventually when you get enough momentum, others jump in. Now the notion of when you follow others jumping in, which is follow the mob, that's not leadership. That's not leadership.
Remember that video we showed
Yes.
months back? You guys, most of you have probably seen it. The dance, the guy had to start a movement. There's this big guy on the field and he's dancing all crazy, and he was just crazy. And then somebody joins him, and it just shows you the process of starting a movement. After the first guy is the leader, but the first follower, that second guy that gets up there and does it with him, that's leadership. Once everybody else starts jumping out there, that's not leadership.
And if you look at it, there were like 3 people there dancing for a while, right? That's still leadership,
That's still
because I
leadership.
think
Yeah,
at that
so
point you could have been
okay.
mocked. But
Yeah.
if you're like, I was in the
Yeah.
first 100, I jumped in, that's not leadership.
Yep.
I want to make clear, once the mob is there, it's not leadership. Leadership is trying to navigate 1 and 2. And so we're going to dive into the details of how we lead and what goes wrong in 1 and 2. So UDA up there is a term from the military and decision making. Observe, orient, decide, which is declare what you're about to do, action. Remember, momentum will not occur until you action something that matters. A lot of us do what I call a meek action or slow action. And I'm like, I don't know why nothing changed this week. Well, nothing changed because you did nothing, right? We talked about oohing all the time, right? I kept thinking about it. I kept planning. If you don't action, you get no momentum. But before action comes the narrative, okay? So going into narrative, so I'm going to share a quick story. It's actually with Megan's son and Mackie here in basketball. So they have basketball training with Mackie. And Mackie, by the way, this guy, like, I love people like Mackie. You get talent at the level where you can coach. He coached Donovan Mitchell. NBA players, one of the best players, maybe arguably number 1, 2, whatever it is. And he decided youth sports is broken, so I'm going to put my skills to coach kids. Right? And so, when you get an NBA basketball level coach to coach kids starting at 3, 4, 5 years old, you're talking about improvement at levels you've never seen. So we're fortunate, Mackie's here. We brought him into our office, made him the first external partner here, what we call our home office. But one of the things he does is he trains our kids on basketball along with some other guests, right? So Matthew is 11 years old, and then there's a kid in his class, Caden, whose father is like 7 feet. Caden's a foot taller than Matthew.
And his dad was like almost in the NBA, right? Matthew is literally an entire foot shorter than him. It's like he's shorter than every single person, so he's just little, right?
So
he's just gonna be little.
So just literally earlier this week, he's telling Megan about how he took 30 shots and he got 2 in. He's a little frustrated, right? Mm-hmm. Because Caden's so tall is blocking all the shots.
He said Caden's blocked every shot I took,
Right? And so what happens is this, every shot blocked.
Yeah.
So what I love, what Mackie does, he teaches leadership through the sport of basketball.
What did Mackie say? And he says, well, Mackie told me I learn more from failure. I learn more when I don't get it in than when I get the ball in. And I was like, you have to kind of go, wait a second, we've talked about that before, but in the lens of basketball, okay, what does he mean by that? He's like, he's trying to explain to me like how you learn more through failure, right? But he's trying to convince himself.
Which, by the way, can seem like pep talk for you lost, you still won.
You still won because you're learning,
the full coddling nature of everything. Everyone's a winner, right? Everyone gets a trophy. Like, you know what? This is not a class where everyone gets a trophy, by the way, right? So we broke down, what does that mean?
What does that mean?
Right? So imagine this. Imagine if Matthew played with Caden, right? Who's a foot taller.
Yeah.
And he actually got 28 of 30 shots in, right? Which, by the way, is a high number. It's hypothetical, right? That would probably make him NBA worthy. But like 28 of 30 shots in, what does he learn? Right? Or even say 15, right? What will he learn? He will learn that,
nothing.
Maybe I kick ass, right?
Yeah.
I'm just that good, I'm talented, I'm gifted, right? So then there's another kid who's almost the same as Caden named Aiden, a little confusing, similar names, who's a much better player, 8th grader, right? Caden's 6th, 8th grader.
Yeah.
And then so if Matthew goes and plays against Aiden will destroy him, right?
Yeah.
Because Aiden's actually much better.
Right.
And so then what will happen? You know what? Maybe basketball isn't for me.
Maybe
I don't like it, whatnot.
Yeah.
Versus I think about this notion of when you get it in, what do you know? Nothing. But so we had this back and forth. He got 2 shots in, which meant I read that as I look at the score saying he didn't try different
So my
stuff.
husband immediately says, Matthew, did you try the pump fake? Like, you're gonna do more pump fakes, right? Like, Matthew's response is, I did, Dad, I am. Like, I know, like I'm trying. So you could just tell he's frustrated.
My point is this, when you face difficulty, right?
Yeah.
You think about this option of, look, there is a constraint, 1 foot taller than me, but what options and choices do I have? Do I use my speed? Do I use my shorter side? What do I do? And so I want you to think about the mindset, right? And so we have no children here, which is good, but like the red box on the right versus the green box on the right. Right? The red box is where we end up most of the time. It's not fair. I'm doing my best. I'm trying. I can't. I'm not interested. It's not my passion. The whole like, I'm always behind. I'm drowning underwater. And yet in the exact same situation, you will find people who literally have a mindset, I'm going to fucking crack this code. Right? So then I use the example of Megan, as we had this, but 305.
So funny. So you know I love 305. That's why you guys are here and everything. So I pre-COVID is the first time I ever tried it, and I thought I was gonna die. I was purple after I came home. My kids were like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "No." I ended up in an advanced class I didn't even know, and I came home like a dead person. But I was like, I'm gonna go back. So I went back the following weekend, and I got addicted to it. I was like, this is awesome. Then COVID hit, and awfulness, right?
Yes.
Bottom line. So I went this past weekend since I haven't been during COVID, right? And I left feeling a little bit like not as good about myself, and I feel great when I'm here. And then I got there, I was like, wait a second, why do I feel like such shit? I'm like, because everybody was awesome. It's like the diehards. And I was behind a girl who was leaping like, I don't know, I felt like she was like Spider-Man. She could like hit the ceiling for Christ's sake. But I didn't leave there saying I can't do it. I was like, I'm out of shape, let's go. Like I'm not, I didn't have a mindset of I'm not gonna do that or I can't do that. I laugh like, I want to figure out how to get to that, right? Which,
And when COVID started, Megan tells me, like, can we do this? And I was
yeah.
like, hey, Jesus, really? Like, can we have spin bikes? We can do Peloton or
Yeah,
anything,
no.
right? So we try it, and she keeps lecturing me, you're not going to make it through. So let's try an easy class. Let's try half of it.
Trying to figure
so,
it out.
of course.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? Like, screw you, Megan. Like, I'm in shape. I'll do this. I had a trash can by my side the whole time because I was gagging, and I was like, fight through it. Like, what the Marines do, fight through it.
Yeah, it's nothing compared to in person. I told him he's never going to make it.
Yeah, and so I was like, whatever.
Which is
right?
why the first time when Katie came here, I said, can you just do like a 30-minute one, like warm us up into it? And you would do the full thing. And I was like, I don't think you know what you're asking for. He was gagging the entire class. I was like,
50%.
Charlie,
I fought through the 50% gagging.
It was distracting.
And then the second half, like, I was totally fine.
It was distracting. I'm like, you're gagging.
But, no, but you know this idea of, you're like, I'm out of shape, right? I'm gonna work harder. And it's amazing. By the second time, it's a little easier. Third time, you're like, you know what? I can do this.
I can do this.
Right?
Started getting
By the
momentum.
way, it's hard as shit.
Right.
See, the same situation, but your
different
mindset can
mindsets.
be, you know what, it's not for me.
Yep.
Maybe dance isn't my thing, right? Maybe I'm just good at, like, let me find what I'm good at, and it's not this.
Yeah.
Like, or it's not fair, you know, Megan had a head start, and we compete in everything, so I'm like, I keep telling Megan, I'm gonna get better at this, and then like, she's like, always telling me, they're complimenting you because you suck so bad, so the improvement is what they're noticing. And I was like, whatever, but anyways, we battle on this. The point is this, how do you get yourself out of the red box into the green box? And I hate to tell you, like, we have to acknowledge, we all go to the red box. If you think I'm always in the green box, you are living in la la land. Like, you need to wake up because the red box is part of life, and right now with COVID and Delta and I don't know, everything else going bad, like climate change issues and whatnot, the red box is like coming at us like a hurricane, and I think it's supposed to flood again today in New York with some storm coming, like back to back. How do you get out of it? And that's the skill. It's not to say, like, I've had a life of comfort and whatnot, and if that's where you are, I literally say, God help you, because you're gonna crash hard. Like, you have to know the skill you wanna learn is how to navigate out of the red box into the green box as fast as freaking possible, right? That's what we care about. That's what I mean by narrative, because if you have the red box narrative, I hate to tell you, whatever you do in action to get momentum is probably gonna do more damage. And when you do more damage, guess what happens? Fear grows. And when you do the wrong stuff and fear grows, the following week you're going to be paralyzed just thinking, oohing, but no action. Or you might be reckless and spiral into more bad action. And trust me, when you need others to jump in, no one's joining you who seems to be drowning themselves. Right? So this whole thing kind of all connects, right? So then we went into, okay, let's go deeper into narrative. So I want to focus your attention on the left side, and then the right I'll explain in a second. On the left side, this litmus test. UFC stands for unfiltered communication, right? I think most of you now who have been to our lip class know I like have a lot of UFC muscle to a fault, right? Meaning I'm just telling you what's on my mind, right? But Most of us fall into this left bucket. And even I have places that I fall into the left bucket, which is, and I put input output, and I'm not gonna head back and forth why I did that.
Yeah.
Near zero UFC is another fancy word for silence. I don't tell you what's on my mind. Like I'm having the entire conversation in my own head. And then you'll see people who are silent, and that you're inputting silence. That's a choice, which is why I call it input. Will output what I call a tilty UFC. A tilty UFC is what Brene Brown calls floodlighting. It's what some people call just the raw form of my thoughts, right? I'm giving you my visceral reaction, not processed for the first time ever, and this beast comes out of your mouth, and you have others see that, and now you will not talk again for a while.
I call it a tantrum, right? It's like having an adult tantrum. You just pull out.
And so people say, you know what? I don't do that.
Yeah.
Trust me, if you've been holding in near zero UFC, it will come out, right? It might take a while before it comes out. It might be, I fear for the person it comes out to, it always comes out, right? You can only hold so much. At some point it will go, maybe to a kid, maybe to a spouse, and you will see. It's not about the broken, cup or whatnot. It's about everything you've been holding in. The danger of near zero UFC, right, is that when you actually do UFC, it's tilty. And tilty UFC leads to really bad things. Versus, I think, on the right side, right? This is all going to the narrative. How do you work on this muscle? Near real time, right? I know we love acronyms, so NRT UFC, right? Sounds like UFO and stuff, but near real time UFC. You know what that sounds like when two people talk? There's a lot of interruption, but it's not even called interruption. It's like going to a bar and just hearing a buzz of conversation. Versus like, even in Zoom, it feels like talking walkie-talkie, right? Since I'm talking, Megan is gonna wait for her turn, and then of course I'll cut her off, and then she'll try again, and we'll go back and forth. It's just walkie-talkie style, right? That's not UFC. That's like being polite and watching what I say and trimming my thoughts. And we've talked about the notion that if you can speak at the speed of like fast speaking is 300 words a minute, our brain is working at 3,000 to 4,000 words a minute. So think about cramming a tenth of what you're actually thinking out of your mouth if you talk fast. But most of us don't. Yeah. On Zoom and whatnot, and when you type with your thumbs, right, too, on keyboards now with your phones, we're talking maybe 25, 50 words a minute. Like, there's a lot of the left side. And so, what do? Safe circles. The circles, what looks like a bullseye, the word in there is safest. You have to always train. In today's day and age, social media and everything makes us feel like you can't say anything. I think last week we talked about that, right? Mm-hmm. The class was all around how to navigate. It's not safe to speak up anymore, right? You can't talk about anything without first filtering it through. Can I talk about this? Right? And so what do? Do you Google search that? So you have to train this muscle. Our intuition, our judgment, right? Applying judgment, decision making is a visceral thing. It's not a logical computer crunching data. And that is what generates creativity. But you have to hit one person's UFC against another person's. So then what we want to talk about next week is on the right, which is the initial class we're going to think about, which is everything in our heads, mental chatter, anxiety, all that stuff comes from a combination of the past and our view of our future outlook. And there's some interesting things in there. So it was so much that, like, as we argued about how much content to put in, I thought it'd be too much for today's class, which
it might not be.
But I still think it is.
Okay.
But so
we'll see. We have a little bit more.
So what is the work?
Yeah.
Said, make success happen. If you are part of a team, right? And I know a lot of us think, I'm part of a company. Who gives a shit about the company and whatnot? But think about enterprise. Think about team. If you are part of a team, right? They always say enterprise first. If you're part of a team first, then self. But yet to build it up, this is always counterintuitive. You have to develop yourself before you help others. But you have to think about team, which is where everyone gets confused. They can coexist, these thoughts. But first and foremost, make success for my tribe, my team. If you're a part of the olden days of the village, think village first, then think self. And that leads to really good things. Go self only. You'll see everyone says, ooh, selfish one, taker, run away from them. But at the same time, you have to develop yourself first to be part of a team.
Kimmy was saying, what's the difference between interruptions and disruptions? I think you mean obviously in an argument. Sorry, I just saw Liam's hair. Oh my God, he's got so much hair there. But wait, so
can I tell you how I think of that? Yeah. Interruption versus disruption. If you're having this discussion, it probably already is bad.
Well,
Right?
if you have, right, yes,
Meaning,
yes.
when you and I
yes.
are back and forth, we don't even think about you're interrupting me. If someone says you're interrupting me,
it's the wrong
or if
person to be,
someone's saying,
then it's the wrong person to be having that conversation with.
I look at it as if one of the people are saying you're interrupting me or you're disrupting whatever the group, that's not a safe space.
Right.
Right? And when I say
That's
safe is misunderstood for like cushiony marshmallows. I'm talking about let's stress test safe. Let's talk about really controversial stuff. And by the way, we will be arguing and she will say, stop interrupting me. I'll be like, I'm telling you this is my thought. It goes back and forth, and through it, right? When you finish your back and forth, fierce UFCs back and forth, hitting each other back and forth, you're like, that's some productive stuff we got to.
Yeah.
But while you get there, it's not productive, right? You have to realize usually before the good shows up, a lot of bad shows up. Before all of you get good at having difficult conversations, you will be really bad at difficult conversations, which is why you need the safe space. And the safe space is simply to say, not a hired person, find one person, a teammate, who like, I can hit back and you hit back. And we have this argument all the time.
Yeah.
She'll say, well, now I feel unsafe to say that. Well, I was like, well, that was your truth. Let me tell you my reaction.
But see, like, this is interesting. Andy, you're saying the idea from improv, yes, and yes, but I hate that stuff, you guys. It's like, I don't know, I feel like it filters you. You can only say it this way. If you say it this way, you're offending me. You can't have a real conversation like that.
Unfiltered conversation.
And, no, if I want to say but this, that's my right to say but this, but I trust you. So this is where.
But we say trust. Trust shows up later.
Yeah.
Right? Don't think about trust.
Yeah.
Don't think about being politically correct. Don't think about, and I can't tell you what I hate about what the digital age has done now. It's all trained us to have to speak a certain way.
Yeah.
And if you don't, right, you're being either uneducated on this, on that. And I'm like, F that. Just speak your mind. Right? Give me your intuitive visceral reaction. And if your mind's going at 3,000-4,000 a minute, try your best to shove that to a pipe of 300.
Right.
What does that sound like? Which means you will have to use hands and other gestures because you can't possibly shove 3,000 words.
You might need to draw.
You might need to draw. You might need to use facial expressions.
Yeah.
You do your best to communicate as rapidly as possible.
I need to use hand gestures. Like.
You know when you'll see when you coach people or you work with friends, you know when you get the truth is when they stop filtering. Right. You know, like when they're talking a mile a minute and they're practically spitting out and stuff, and I'm like, okay, this is true now. Everything else was controlled. And controlled talk, I don't need to talk to you. I can Google search that thing. I can go watch someone who practiced 100 times to give that talk. It doesn't create creativity. It does not, that's not the stuff we need. Yeah. We need places to be real, and real sounds raw. And raw is ugly. It's messy.
It's messy.
And before you learn the skills to navigate raw and messy really well, even in stressful, dangerous places, you need a place where you can consistently go and do that, like badly. Yeah. Have difficult conversations badly. Do unfiltered communications badly. That's the safe space, the safe who. Yeah. Then, as soon as you can, try to grow that to more people, larger teams, all the way maybe even to just being in the public. That's where you need to do, always work that muscle. So when I think about what is the work, make success, it's the full spectrum, it's not just results. It's everything that gets results, and so I'm an engineer by trade. In engineering, they call it debugging. You know what a lot of our work is every day, every time? It's debugging my whole brain, my machine. My job, the contribution is my independent judgment decisions, working with others, like so that we can create. We can make a pathway that did not exist Monday morning when we stepped in.
This is where industrial age thinking makes you feel like when you come into work, you should be at your computer, at your laptop, doing the work.
Yes.
This is where it drives us crazy because what's the work? Like the work is not just sitting at your computer doing there is work output that has to come out, but when your head is in the wrong place, it's not gonna come out well. I think that's, Laurie Jarvis was saying, would a controlled conversation be inauthentic?
Yes.
Yeah.
When you say controlled, I mean like the word
controlled.
UFC is uncontrolled.
Yeah.
Controlled conversation is
I think we all know when we've been in a conversation that's not authentic. You can feel it when you walk out. That didn't feel good. I don't feel better. I don't feel like we had a real discussion. And then you all walk out of the room like, smiling at each other. And it's like, the whole niceness is inauthentic kindness. It's like, we're not really in a kind place, but we're going to pretend to be in a kind place right now. It doesn't make you feel better. It makes you feel worse.
Yes. So here, we can chat more with
Yeah,
questions, but
sorry.
let me just get, this is the last slide. So kind of this question, what is the work, right? What work, years to what work has changed. Here's a litmus test I want you to think about. For most of us, I believe, and this might be insulting to some, but I believe most of you can do your job drunk. And the reason is this, it's repeated and routine in nature. You can have a few drinks, you can be hungover, and you can still probably do a decent job. Maybe not the best job of the day, but decent job. And so I want you to imagine this picture, police lights in the background, and this person like, oh no, right? Versus the flip side. The litmus test is this, could you do your job? Imagine a 5-year-old kid in the back whose lives, right, whose life is in your hands. That's the level of alertness you need to be able to do creativity, intense jobs. And how many of us are spending most days going to work, right, just feeling numb? When you feel numb, which is the same as being drunk, like you're likely going to do okay in routine, repeated in nature, clearly prescribed tasks each day. But if you have to apply independent thought, create something that did not exist as of when I walked in this morning with someone else, navigating difficult conversations and patterns, and then produce an action that could create momentum, you need to be alert and you need to find a way. So when I think about what is the work, right? And we think about the notion of upskilling, right? If you don't upskill to the right side, and I love what the Navy has taught us, they say if you're not moving forwards, you're drifting backwards. If you don't upskill on the right side, I will tell you right now, you are downskilling.
I think what we've heard before is a lot of people, I think, won't admit, they'll admit they're not killing it right now, that they're kind of stuck. But they won't admit they're sliding backwards, that they're failing. Right, so they might not admit, okay, I'm not killing it right now, but I'm kind of stuck. But most people won't admit they're doing worse, and I think it's because it feels relatively. I'm like, well, I'm stuck right now.
I'm not doing worse. I'm just staying the same.
I'm not like a super thumbs up, and I'm not a thumbs down. Just kind of somewhere. I'm just right now. And what we're saying is, you're either up or you're down. That's it. You're either moving forward or you're moving backwards, and that's the hard reality. The boat, the ship is moving, or it's drifting backwards. It's you can't feel it on an everyday basis, but slowly you're drifting backwards.
And
that's the
so can I tell you what I think
because
about?
it's all relative to other people who are moving up.
But can I tell you what I think about? So Jim Lear, like who we got to know really well, he would talk about, for those of you who are really young and thinking like I'm invincible body-wise, right? Starting at 25, your body starts eroding. Right? So I don't know how old you are, but starting at 25, it erodes all the time, right? So you hear me like, oh shit, right? There's a lot of erosion, right? But then we need a guy named Doc, Peter Gorman. We're going to bring him here to come hang out with us too. He's done some amazing stuff. And he's like, we can make people younger. Like, we can make people younger and younger, but it's all around training, continuous training. This notion of if you're not upskilling, right? You're like the 25-year-old. When I was 25, I could still go out, eat late night snacks. I prided myself in knowing where all the best late night, food was around New York City or whatever city, and wake up the next day, sometimes sleep till 4 o'clock in the afternoon and realize, is it morning or is it evening in the wintertime? It's like, no more, right? But I remember those days. But then after 25, it just gets harder and harder.
Remember the days I could come in hungover and get my job done?
Yes.
None of that anymore. I cannot. I can't even have a sip and function the next day because I have to think. People will just crank through. I'm like, there's no cranking. There's thinking, and I can't think when I'm hungover and like a mess. Like, you can be tired. Being hungover and tired,
They say it's the same. They say it's the same, but then, so we've been sharing habits and ways to snap out of it. I tell you, one of the best ways is fitness. But then you'll have a limited window with your sharp brain before you crash again. Then you need another oscillation.
But you actually need an oscillation away from what you're thinking about, which is why I've always found dance to be helpful, because you have to think about what you're doing or else you can't do the workout. Versus if you go on like a treadmill, or you do something where you can think, it's actually not an oscillation.
So we're going to try this.
Music and dancing, choreography is important.
So on community, premium COA days, we have a giant dance party at 2 o'clock. We're using the full basketball court.
We've shown you the research, dancing makes you smarter. So if you want to be smarter and start upskilling here, we've got some really cool people here taking a class with us.
Or the flip side is this, if you want to become dumber, which is downskilling, don't dance, right? So that's your choice.
I love that. We take different approaches. We take different approaches to getting people to come.
Same message, me and Megan just said. But I leave you with kind of this notion of what is the work? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the entire set. The work is not just make success get results. Work is understanding the machine of how we get results. Understanding where the breakdown's occurring, and what you'll find for most of us, it breaks down, not in getting the mob and others to jump in, right? Not necessarily even on the momentum, the right action, which is what we obsess over, the strategy, the big ideas. It breaks down in our mental chatter, the narrative that we're unable to take control of. I had it in my notes, right? It seems like the narrative has control over us versus us taking control of when we're in these red box, bad situations of it's impossible, why bother, nothing's gonna work, I'm drowning, to how do I turn into, I'm gonna effing crack this code. Kid's 1 foot taller than me, I'm gonna school him. I'm gonna figure out how to find the cracks in the holes that Caden isn't seeing, and I'm gonna make him say, shoot, 1 foot advantage is not enough of an advantage. How do you get there? And that is a skill. It is not like I'm born with it, it's not ooh, my life sucks, so I can't, that's what we're gonna go into. So next week, we have some pieces of how to do that right, and where we believe it's going wrong in the general advice out there. But in the meantime, we thought this was interesting.
Yeah. They want to see you dance, Charlie.
No, wait. At 2 o'clock, come. I've learned a new...
Not right now, but yes.
I've learned...
We've done that.
Sorry, I'll stop sharing.
But we can take some questions. There's a few in here we could get to if you want.
By the way, before the dance, one of the things that was really hard is poses that you guys do. And it's like, if you've never really posed in front of a mirror dancing, it's like the hardest thing. And all I can do is put rabbit ears or something dumb, or this thing. And then you realize you have to go all out. And so now Katie on Wednesdays comes to a pre-training, and I'm like, Katie, can you just teach us one pose each time? So I can't show you because I have to go on the table, which would not help you. But she's taught me a pose that, are you going to try today?
You have to come to the class.
If I hurt myself, it's in an attempt to try.
You have to come to the class to see. You can't give them all the goodies here.
Right. So last week she taught me a pose and I couldn't balance quite. So if you look at the video, I'm always falling. But it looks like I'm doing it on purpose because someone always said, make it look like it's solo time. So
there's no mistakes, only solos.
Yes. So anyways, nonetheless.
Courtney, you were asking a question, Courtney, if you want to unmute about, I don't know if you still have this question, but about followership and leadership. How does someone be a follower? But if you want to go ahead and mute and give us more context.
Gosh, I don't remember where I said it.
Oh, okay.
Charlie, how do you, if you're in the follower position and still, how do you have an impact with input to a leader if you're just a follower?
No, this is an excellent question because I think a lot of times, a lot of people go to it's kind of like kids saying my parents suck, right? Or my coach sucks, which is why I can't beat Kate, right? That would be Mackie in this case, but I don't think, no, he doesn't say that, but I'm just saying, he could. Most common thing we hear, right? Yeah. The issue is leadership in this place. And I hate all the articles written saying it always starts with leadership. And I say, you know what? I'm gonna call BS on that one because anyone can lead. Anyone can lead, and you know what leaders are doing? And we have worked with the best and the biggest organizations. They're looking for proof on the inside. They always think, well, I got a book to read. They're looking for proof on the inside. There's nothing more powerful than seeing someone inside, in some small way, innovate and show me what success looks like. Show me how to navigate through this, and then I'll say, how do I help you do that twice as much, 10 times as much? They're all looking, and right now, leadership is confused. COVID's confused them as much as you. They have families screaming at home. They don't know, do I shed my office leases that range from 10 to even 100 years? What do I do, right? Do I bring them to work? Do I not? Do I hire? Do I stay? They're all looking for direction. And the media is doing a phenomenal job of selling clicks, right? They have data mined to know, what we will read. Even a survey of 12 people will get a whole article read that everyone clicks, and it's maddening. And they know, as leadership, if I follow that media person's advice and it's wrong, nobody gives a shit. You go out of business, it's still your fault. So they're looking for proof, and the best proof always comes from within. So when I think about followership, and they say, great followers, are looking to follow leaders, all the leaders are looking for leadership. Meaning they're looking in another way for someone to navigate the darkness, right? Find a way to control the narrative, and in the difficult, crazy, impossible situations, action within the week and show me like breadcrumb trails of that could work. That's working. They're like momentum, leading signals. Like we have the same thing. Like, you know, like
You're saying like in this transition from, 20th century to 21st, it's not like waiting to be told, you're a leader now, so now you can go take risk and do.
that's like so
old
industrial
school,
age.
right.
Once someone
Like-
gives you that, oh, you have the general's hat, now you can lead, and now authority I have, everyone will follow me.
Yeah.
I think we all know.
That's-
like, remember we had shared maybe one of the earlier lib classes, it's come out that if you have the title of authority figure, you're rejected by the
Yeah.
younger generation. They're wired to naturally reject authority. So like, you'll see great people, like you're like, oh, I want you to
Yeah.
lead, you give them the hat, promote them, and suddenly they no longer can get their
Right.
colleagues who used to love them, listen to them,
Yeah.
influence them, listen. Like, that's not how leadership works. It's no longer by job title. It's
Right.
no longer by, you have been given the power of,
Yeah.
whatever. I say gray skull, but that's.
I mean, I'm sure the same is true in sports, right, Mackie? Like where you're the captain of the team, but
Doesn't matter.
other kids who may rise up and act like a captain, they probably listen to that person more than they do the captain, right? I mean, it's almost like you'd be called captain, now you're in charge, you're a manager, now I don't really want to listen to you because you're in charge.
One of our investors, top,
Yeah.
and then first investor in Google and Amazon, right? This guy Rom, how to hire engineers. Everyone's struggling to hire engineers. And you know the one insight was they don't listen to their parents. You would think parents
Yeah.
have the power of advice. No. The influence comes from the best professors and then the smartest kids in the school. Like you're influenced by your colleagues
Yeah.
and you're influenced by the top people you learn from, your mentors, coaches, professors, right? That was the insight, not parents. You're thinking, ooh, if I can recruit the parents,
Yeah.
right? I know in all the sports movies, they always, kiss out to the parents.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's happening in
Yeah.
sports too, but in the world of recruiting talent, it's
Yeah.
not, the parents are the ones they reject. The parents say, oh, you should go to Goldman, it's more safe, or you should go here, you're more safe. They're like, you know what, mom, dad, like, I'm gonna do what I want. My gut doesn't say that, and I'm just gonna, or it's like, I just quit, and I just decided I'll do this. Like, but they get influenced by the brightest, and everyone knows who's the sharpest in the team, right? That captain or that non-captain who seems to be awesome, or the mentor, the person I'm learning from. So like, I kind of look at it as, like this whole dynamic has shifted. It has less to do with title.
Yeah.
It had less to do with some human being giving you the power of authority. It has more to do with you just kicking butt.
Right.
And then you going and infecting that to one other, then from 2 to like 4. And someone will say, hey, Courtney, like, could you do that at a bigger scale?
Right.
If I put some real muscle and firepower and maybe a barrel of jet fuel behind you, could you make it happen? Like, and they'll take chances like that
Right.
far more readily than some outside McKinsey consultant who says, based on the research, you gotta do this.
Yeah.
Like, we do a lot of work advising the heads of the Navy, the Air Force, and groups. They say they're inundated with research papers telling them what they should be doing. Inundated, right? They don't listen to them. Like, by the time they listen to it, they only do it as a backup to a decision they made. They don't get swayed because there's too many of them.
Yeah. They need it as backup. Josh always says that, right? It's like the backup, but not to tell them what to go do, right?
And they're looking for proof inside, right?
Yeah.
Remember Steve Wilson, Vice Chief of the Air Force? He was
I
like, I want
know.
someone inside.
Telling me to do this,
And
yeah.
because there's proof they're showing, so
And then Courtney's saying, how can a person handle being put in a leadership position while in a follower role? Is where you gotta do both, right?
But see, I think
Yeah.
the problem is this, the word leadership is ill-defined because it's from the industrial age. Leadership is equated to authority.
Yeah.
It's equated to like being granted leadership, right? Otherwise, I'm a follower. I manage no one, so I'm not a leader. Versus like, when you think of leadership differently as who has the best judgment, right? Who has the best judgment in ambiguous, difficult, stressful situations? Who has the ability and difficulty to get out of the red box and go into the green box? I'm gonna effing crack this code as opposed to, let me tell you all the reasons why this won't work, right? I don't need to hear why it won't work. I know it's difficult.
Right.
I wanna know the person, I don't care how junior or senior you are, that will get me solutions and figure this out, right? And then someone will say, well, I'll get you solutions. I'm like, no, I need you to experiment because it's hard to navigate. So this is why it starts with your own head case that shows then action that drives momentum. Right? Bad decisions do not drive momentum, they create damage, they cost money, they hurt the enterprise more. So this is a skill.
Yeah,
It's a skill.
It's funny, we're gonna talk about it next week because I'm still unpacking some of this, but we think about how the past really impacts what you do in the future. One of the stories that came up for me, I mean, it's 23 years I've been working with Charlie, so I was an intern in 98. And so in 99, I was running all these college campus events. We were a print business back then. There was like no internet. That makes me feel so old. There was, but it wasn't like a big, it wasn't a big thing back then. It was print. Anyway, so it was a print business, but we had all the boxes of books, and my job was to go run promotional events on college campuses. I was not given a team. It was just, can you go do that, right? And so it's so interesting because I think back on that. I was not in a leadership role. It was just like intern that's now full-time, you know what I mean? Just go make these promotional events happen. And I remember thinking, okay, I have to actually go get the boxes of books in this big U-Haul, like a, you know, the U-Haul thing, and put it in the truck. I mean, I got guns, but I created guns from literally,
Like not
I was
physical
tiny,
guns.
like
It's not
picking.
like machine gun
No,
guns.
like, you know, I always had some
Just in
guns,
case.
but, you know, I added more. And I remember having to pick up all the boxes, bring them to from the U-Haul into a U-Haul truck, drive them. This was in Boston, and like, I'm from there, but I didn't know where the hell, I was Cape Cod, but anyways, I didn't know where the hell I was going. So like, I've got maps before MapQuest and all that, like maps of Boston, trying to figure out where I'm going. But I remember at some point, I'm like, I need
By the
help.
way, I have no idea where the story's going.
Oh, no. And, are you? No, you know you a little bit more.
No, but
Maybe you don't. We talk
I know
about,
what you're talking about.
we have been working together for 23 years, and there's so much stuff we still haven't talked about, and we're talking all the time. Anyways, it doesn't matter. I didn't have a team. Talk about having to influence other people to help me and not being in a leadership role. There were people, I would just go to them and say, can you come to this campus? We're going to Tufts, or we're going to Emerson, or I'm going to this art school down the Conservatory of Music, whatever it was, and can you just come with me for 2 hours, help me get the boxes, we'll go, and I would just try to find a way to like make it fun for them, you know? You're gonna come to the college campus, we're going to Babson, we're going to BU, we're going wherever, we just come with me, I have to go, and then I would be like, I'll help you do whatever you're doing. Help them do what they're doing. I don't know what they were designed, whatever, but I would just be there, right? And I remember thinking, that's what I have to do. Like, it never dawned on me, Charlie, could you give me a team of people? Because, you know, I'm 23 or 22 and I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know where I'm going. I'm over my head. Like, I just, you know, I think the idea of just, it wasn't like an authority I was given. It was just, I need you to go do this, so I did it. And eventually, I remember all of a sudden it would get a little bit easier where like somehow now, I think I used your car instead of this big truck because then I was going to, anyways, it just like so many
Can I
different,
tell you
like.
this story? I remember it's interesting. Because Megan asks the question a lot of times, why me? Like, why did she become head of revenue, eventually co-CEO? Why her? Right? Why not the senior members I had? Greg, by the way, was best friend from high school. Like, I mean, there's so many people older.
That's because you guys are too similar, but let's put that aside. But yes,
putting all that
we
aside,
love Greg.
but you know, as we were just talking last night as we went through this, there are two memories I have, right? So when I started the business, print books, right? We also would then distribute but hold these physical events in like places on college campus. Physical events, just
Promotional events,
promotional events, and trying to get people to take a free guidebook, just like count it in distribution.
Bring t-shirts
It's
and swag,
give them some
like, you know,
swag.
stickers
Like,
and-
it's tough, hard stuff. And I remember I had to do it when it was small.
Okay,
And I saw Megan do it with grace. I saw her recruit other people. I saw her never complain. Everyone else says, ugh, I gotta do that. When do I get out of this job? She found a way to do it, always, and got other people to do it. And I remember watching her saying, I don't know how she's doing it, but I like that. Then there was a point where when we did guidebooks, we had local sales. We sold door to door, literally going door to door from a shoemaker to a pizza maker to like
Which I will
whatever,
admit, I
right?
absolutely hate it.
So
Oh my God.
one of the places were based in Somerville, which is close to Cambridge, right?
Yeah.
But in Somerville, and I was like, we need to sell New Hampshire, right? Because that's one of the guidebooks for college campuses.
Yeah.
Who wants to drive every day up to New Hampshire, sell door to door, and then come back, right, through traffic and rush hour? Nobody would do it. And I look at Megan, she's like, I'll do it. Now, those decisions mattered, right? Like, they were difficult situations.
Well, and I remember saying, but I don't have a car, like, how am I gonna get up there? So you know what Charlie did? He said, well, I'll have my business partner who started the company, Murph, will go with you. So the benefit I got was she trained me. But I had no idea she was gonna do that. I didn't know, but see, this is where it's interesting, Charlie. Like, you took something and said, okay, well, she'll do it. She's stepping up, so I'm gonna help her do it better. So I had no idea, like, I was gonna be driving up there.
You know,
with
like
her,
in the
you know?
events, as well as the selling door to door New Hampshire, I was waiting for you to complain.
Yeah.
too far,
Yeah.
impossible.
Yeah.
Why don't I have an easier
Yeah.
one? Everyone else gets to sell like right next door, and I'm driving, every day. So I'm working longer. I'm starting earlier, working longer. I was waiting for you to complain, and I braced myself, and I watched, and I waited, and you didn't.
Yeah.
And so I remember like.
I just complained to other people probably. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm sure. No, I don't remember
No, but
complaining
like,
about
no,
that.
but
I didn't. I didn't.
I'm
a lot.
observant. I always had the
didn't.
oohing down, observe and orient. Like I was observing what was happening and just
Yeah.
waiting. And I would ask, Murph,
Yeah.
who was her mentor then, like I asked other people, like, hey, so what does Megan say? What's she doing? Like, just kind of like that. It was all good. And I was like, really? You're not telling me something? Nothing. I couldn't get anything out. And then I would watch.
You drove that much for that?
Yes, because you know what?
You think
The
so?
first leadership offsite we had was in this investor in Martha's Vineyard, sleep 21 people, and we had spot for one. And I added Megan in. And I remember like my business partner was like, she was
too young, she's not gonna
starting-
wanna go.
Yeah, she was like,
Sweet,
she was like, Charlie, like, you're ruining her life. She's not gonna tell you
It's a
no.
weekend,
The CEO,
it's a weekend, yeah.
And I was like, it'll totally help her grow, right? Why don't I offer it to her? And she's like, I'm telling her she doesn't wanna go. She won't tell you the truth. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give her that choice, right? Offered it to her, she jumped at it right away. It absolutely made a difference.
Yeah.
But why I saw it was, I was like, I saw what you did for New Hampshire,
Yeah.
door to door.
Yeah.
I saw what you did for the book event, so I
Yeah.
took another shot.
Yeah.
These things add up. Now, some people take those opportunities, do nothing with it, right? And think like, oh, I'm an offsite, I'm so junior,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna stay quiet, I'm so nervous, I did nothing. Megan was like scribbling notes and trying stuff and then get yelled at for saying the wrong thing, but just try again. Like, we screened for coachability. There was nobody I've met who's more coachable than Megan. That's literally why she became CEO.
No, we're gonna talk about this.
I know.
But I like it. That's nice.
But,
Thank you.
but there's a lot of stuff in the past, which is what we're gonna go into next.
Because we're talking about it, I'm like, I'm gonna go practice it, because we talked about I need to practice talking about the past more, so I just did. So there you
Yes.
go, and it led to that.
See?
Appreciate you.
Any thoughts and questions from here? I know, Hamish, you had something in here I wanted to touch on because I think it's the wrong thought, to be honest.
Hamish.
But anybody in the room here too, thoughts? Like just, once again, UFCing, what's going through your head? I know Mackie always is a lot, but anybody else?
I got my own hour.
Yeah, he's
Anyway,
Maggie's the follow-up hour at 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock, please go to the lip extension. You can go into more depth on all the stuff. But yeah, other thoughts in here? Anybody? Brendan?
I mean, I think everything you said about narrative and momentum really applies to fundraising, to starting a business, to getting a team, to swinging above your weight, and just really resonated what you said about fear and momentum being opposites, because you never know. So the more momentum you have, the easier it is to put the fear away.
Yes.
But when you don't have that, creating that narrative and believing in yourself and being able to move one person next to you really does make a difference. You just keep going.
It's fascinating. There was always this phrase that people think momentum, they think strategy. They think I better have the right plan before I fire a shot. And that's what they usually call aim, 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 aim. You never fire. The way you often get momentum, you fire, then you look at where it went, then you readjust, then fire again, then you readjust, fire again. That's how you get momentum, but everyone's always planning for that perfect shot and never fire a shot. And by the time they fire, they're like, oh, it didn't work. Back to the drawing board. Instead of 2 weeks now, let's plan for 4 weeks. Like, it's the wrong behavior. I remember in the toughest times, I met this guy who said, Charlie, everything is about getting your oars in the water. You get your oars in the water and you row like hell. And then you get your entire team to row in the same direction. Someone will say, I don't know, we should think more, it's wrong direction. Even if we're heading towards a waterfall to go over the cliff, we row in one direction.
Yeah.
We will know we're going wrong, we'll change gears.
You'll know you're
Go the
going
way
wrong
up.
faster if everybody's
But
rowing in a similar direction.
If you ever go on a boat and everyone starts rowing in different directions, the boat spins. And the current will then take you over the waterfall. So even if going the wrong way, it's better to row aggressively in one direction. You'll course correct even if you're going wrong. And I always kept that in mind, oars in the water, because most of life is literally like watching the seasons change. It will be, for those of you in certain places, the leaves will change color before you know it. Snow will be on the ground. Then there'll be flowers for spring, and they'll be back again next summer. COVID will probably be here with some, I don't know, variant that starts with an M, but like, it's like something like life just moves. Seasons change, but nothing happened. We're still oohing, right? Looking for the plan, the inspiration, momentum, and it's a hard thing to understand. Like,
Victoria, can you, I don't know if you're here, if you want to unmute. I don't know if you're new to the class. Victoria from Wellstar. Something really interesting here that her and Courtney are going back and forth with. Are you here, Courtney?
Victoria, you can.
I meant Victoria. Sorry, I meant Victoria.
I'm here.
Go ahead.
So what we're finding right now is with everything that has changed, obviously, healthcare has changed completely with COVID. So like all of the upper leadership from directors and above all now work from home. So they're not even in the face-to-face that we're dealing with every single day. And trying to have a conversation with decisions that are being made from a spreadsheet versus what's actually happening within our medical practices, you're trying to communicate the need of what is there, and again, the fellowship versus leadership. And we're required, quote unquote, to go into following what our executive branches and our directors are telling us to do. But then at the same time, that's not what actually is happening in our day to day. So we're trying to lead at the bottom of this poll that's, sitting here, seeing what's happening every single day,
Yes.
but unable to communicate and get them to see past their spreadsheet.
So first I empathize, but can I tell you, put a different mindset on, right? I want you to think about Matthew, Megan's son, and Caden is a foot taller. At some point, if you took a wall and mapped out, here's what they're saying off the spreadsheet, here's what we're saying we need, and you try that approach and they didn't listen. Just saying the same thing over and over again, yelling louder and whatnot, could be a strategy, but maybe there are other ways. Maybe there are other ways where rather than try to take the same shot that Caden blocks a foot taller over and over again, this idea of creativity. Can you go under his legs? Can you go run back and forth, and maybe because he's taller, he's heavier, maybe I can tire him out? Can you try other creative ways as opposed to the exact same way? And oftentimes why we need a teammate is that we get kind of obtuse and blind to, wait, you pretty much said the same thing or did the same thing.
Yeah, same approach.
Same approach.
Yeah.
We often can't see it. You need someone else to tell you, that's pretty much the exact same thing. And I'm telling you this because I'm not saying you're right or they're right. I don't know. Oftentimes when we've coached both sides of the equation, you see that both sides lack information and they have certainty on both sides, but both sides also kind of want to do the right thing for the enterprise. I really believe even the directors and, board members, everyone who work from home, which kind of implies little jerk-offs, we're risking our lives and they're not, but put that aside, I know they care about the enterprise, just like you do. I know they care about healthcare, they care about all of it. But I don't know all the data points they have.
You're saying you have to give them benefit of the doubt in that way.
Which is very hard to do.
It's very hard to do, right.
Just like they have to give you the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
But what I'm saying is you're having the same conversation and getting the same response. And so you're frustrated. I get it. Put it down so that you can say, how can I be more creative? And doesn't mean syntax or better language. Sometimes you can approach something from further away.
Right.
You know what I mean? A lot of times when I look at something, everyone looks at that situation, and I always take a look at the on-ramp and the off-ramp. How do they get into that situation? And what are the things that occur maybe even days, weeks, months before that leads to this situation, or what happens immediately following? And oftentimes we're playing in this narrow scope of the situation, and I'm you start to look at the on-ramp and off-ramp, you're whoa, there's a lot of other moving variables everywhere.
I don't disagree with you on that aspect at all. I mean, I respect the fact that there is, a lot of extenuating circumstances because it's a hospital system, it's a medical group system, so they're looking at it from all of the directions, where I have a more linear view on my current location and my current market, and with that, I do sympathize, but it's also when we feel like we're on that hamster wheel doing the same thing that they keep instructing us to do. And because of certain regulations or expectations, you're really not given that opportunity to really voice where the concerns are.
So Victoria, can I give you an interesting analogy? So I don't know if most people will know, like how women in the military sort of occurred. You know, this idea of like women in combat and all that stuff. So we spent time with the team that made that happen. There's 3 individuals, 1 woman and 2 men. One's the current head of HR at Air Force. Another one is the 4-star that runs all of Europe for Navy now. Another one is deputy, who's right hand, so Juliet, right? So we spent a lot of time with these 3. And it's fascinating because, you know, all the arguments that women should be able to do just what men can do and all that stuff, right? And they said, you know, the power was held in the hands of men. Right? They were the generals and the admirals, right? So how do you convince them women can do it too? And you know, they were saying the reality of how it happened. It had to do with their daughters.
Their daughters were being told you can't go into combat.
They believe
Your
their daughters
running the Air Force and your daughter can't do it.
They believe their daughters can do anything. And as their daughters showed up in the military, they changed their mind. I'm telling you that because you gotta think
creative.
So my first thought was, are there ways to think about these people's kids and can you recruit some of them to come work with you in the field? Because if they're there, they have more power at the dining room table on the weekend than you could possibly have. I can't tell you when you say, Mom and Dad, you're being stupid, you gotta do this. They listen at a different level than when an employee says, sir, you know, I have a report, you really need to do this, I plead. The power of children these days, it's like, and I throw that out as just another approach. I would have never thought women in combat came from more of that. Yeah. And by the way, I don't know if in the papers they'll ever say that, but that's the reality. The people who made it happen said that's literally the difference maker. So I look for that's cool. What are the pressure points, the leverage points, and I mean So my first thought as you spoke, Victoria, was I was thinking their children. I want to get one of their kids to work in the field with me, and they will have more power than you could possibly have. So how do I influence the influencer in this case? One thought.
So Hamish, he's back in. He's like, you said something about something he said was kind of off, and now he's.
Oh yeah, yes.
So Hamish said, I read it. Go ahead, Hamish. Do you want to unmute?
I'm not sure what Charlie was referring to. I'd made a couple of comments.
I think it was that I read about new company uses an app to continuously gather input from all employees on how to improve success instead of using outside consultants. Is that what?
Yes.
Okay.
Right? Megan just read it, right? This idea, can I tell you what is bogus about getting data from apps and surveys and whatnot? It's proven over again, people do not do what they fill out of the surveys. So much of when you fill it out comes to what I'm supposed to say. It's what you actually do to what you fill in a survey do not often match up, which is why be careful that you don't fall prey to just what the survey said, which is backing up what you did, which by the way, you won't get fired for it, right? Because you can back it up to the survey. But if you really want to win, it's not about covering your ass. It's about actually making real win, real momentum. So I'm saying, make sure you have the real conversation.
We have a feedback app. That's a big part of our culture.
Yeah, but if that's all we did.
But we don't look at that app and say, I must do that now. The crowd is saying X, Y, Z, and now we need to do that. It's a data point, right?
So Hamish, my only reaction was this. Be careful that the survey or the app doesn't become your new boss. Yeah. Right? It does not replace independent thinking, judgment, meaning it is a data point to inform your thinking, and oftentimes it'll direct you the wrong way. You know, the most classic historical question is, if Henry Ford surveyed people what they wanted, they would say faster horses. They had no idea of a car, right? Surveys usually fill out the equivalent of faster horses, not like what they don't know existed. Every inventor of anything, creativity, Steve Jobs included, would always say, no one knows what they want until they see it. That's the job of the creator. We are all creators now. So nobody even knows. So what you'll see more is the reaction of someone once they see something. That's more telling, which is why every app and every data point can inform some thinking. But until you fire the shot, pull the trigger, you will never know what actually happens. In tech software building, right, they call them usability studies. Usability studies aren't like, let's go figure out what to build and keep serving and what to do, right, do a one-year study of what people might do. No, they fire the app out in what they call alpha or beta mode to real users and then see what happens. is what we're doing here. By the way, this premium COA, we decided to do, I think it was last Monday. Okay? So not this Monday, but a week and a half ago, out of thin air, we saw this whole, like, everyone wants some social, they want physical, but not all the time. So how do you find a place where every office is built literally like white-collar prisons, right? And they can fancy it up with a few donuts and coffee and something else, but it's like prisons, the way they're built. We built it differently. Like, I know London and Boston's not quite there, but if you come to New York, you'll see this thing wasn't built overnight. We built it differently, and everyone's reaction is, office was like that. I'd go all the time. It's a home office, we said. Like, and it's built with the content of leadership, fitness. We have sleep class today. We have food all day long, hopefully some healthy. And we have like social, we have this. You're meeting people from sports and nonprofits and business world and like military, like all different types, startups, you know, Fortune 500, like the full boat. And we said everyone is missing something.
Yeah.
We have the space. We can't hold our 200-person events. Let's pull the trigger and hold smaller ones. And we decided last Monday, at end of day Monday, around 6 o'clock, I think, Monday night. This is from morning to 6 p.m., just brand new idea. Let's launch it in a week and a half globally in Boston, London, and New York. And so like 9/23 became the most commonly used thing for the week and a half. I was like, what's 9/23? They're like, that's the date you picked. And I was like, oh yeah, next Thursday is 9/23. Said, hell or high water, we're gonna launch it and see what happens. That's today. Like, that was not through any survey data point. That was just, and now I don't know how today will go, but we'll learn a lot more, right? We've already learned bits and pieces through the day. If you saw the behind the scenes chatter that's already going on with every little thing everything from a sign for the trash can should be in place, to this is missing, to that, to we had Pilates at 10 and nobody shows up at 10. So like, we're like, next week don't do that. Like, there's so much chatter of changes already happening in real time. So like, I look at the idea of a OODA loop, right? Surveys and apps are like more oohing, right? Observe and orient. OODA loops are like you observe and orient and you make a decision, you informate, you share, and you pull the trigger that same day. Then you iterate, on Tuesday you iterate, on Wednesday you iterate, and you keep adjusting. So my only point, Hamish, is not that it's bad, just that be careful. The most common thing is people suddenly make the app their boss. People make the feedback, the survey their boss. Meaning you give your brain to that and you then check out to like, I'm the drunk driver who just does what they're told to do, right? So that's my only.
So I just want to add just one thing you said, like, I don't know how today will go. Something I say a lot when I teach shooting and basketball is I'm a pretty good shooter. I make a lot of my shots. Like, I don't know if I'm going to make the shot. I know I'm going to follow through is what my message to the kids. I know what my feet are going to do. I know what my arm's going to do. I don't know if it's going to go in. So just hearing you say, like, I don't know how today is going to go made me think, like, but what do you know? Like, what is your thing? Like, I don't know if today's going to be good or bad, but I know me and the rest of the partners are going to do ... What is that thing?
Okay, I love this question, right? So
Can you guys hear it?
Yeah, you can hear it.
Everybody can hear, yeah? Okay, good.
So can I tell why I love this question? We had this exact coaching session yesterday with our team, and maybe the day before and the day before, right? This is the first one.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, so disappointed, this didn't work, that didn't work. I was like, stop being stupid. What makes you think the very first time is gonna go so well? What I do know is it will iterate. I'm looking for what we overshot, undershot, what we completely missed, what we didn't know, because you go in, and this is the idea of performance versus learning mindset. Most people go in with a performance mindset. Did we get it right? We've never done this. Right? We've never done this in the middle of COVID, making offices do all this stuff. Premium COA. This is the 75th week of running COA weekly, which we decided, by the way, in 3 days we just launched it, right? That was the first COA we launched.
Yeah.
Well, now virtual COA feels old, like for us. 75 weeks later, it feels like we do it with our eyes closed. The first physical, I was like, there's no way it's gonna go right.
Right.
There's gonna be all kinds of mistakes. So we overshot in food. I know we overshot. But like, you'll see, it's just impossible to eat that much food, and it's really good, but like, you can't. But there's other stuff we undershot. I don't know what it is. So last week, we ran a family event just to test it even more. And as soon as we walked in, I love this, so not to, so Tom, one
But
of
you're
our
just
partners-
saying what we know we'll do, and your example of the follow is we know we'll iterate. Meaning you go into it with a
I'm
learning
going in
mindset.
knowing, but like, that sounds so jargony. I look at it as like, it's almost like, I can't think of anything you did for the first time. The first time I
You
did
don't
305.
expect- you don't
Did I
expect
expect to like
well.
just blow Megan out of the water and just find my...
You probably did. You probably did.
But it took me less than 1 minute before I realized this is not gonna go the way
And
I
I
thought it
liked
would
it
go.
so much.
Right?
It's
Like-
probably not good, but I
And I mean, literally, like, you know the idea that like, what made you think you're so good for the very first time? You know, the idea of UFC, difficult conversations, right?
Yeah.
What makes you think you should be so good? Because you were gifted with this creative, difficult conversation, handling what you just happened to be so good for the 21st century, just didn't know it till, you got out of the 20th century?
Right.
We all suck, right? So let's start there, and then let's think about how to get better. Like, I look at this of like, most things you do new, you are supposed to be bad. You're supposed to do, so go in with the mindset, I'm looking for how to get better versus people are looking for, who's gonna compliment me on how I got it right the first shot? I'm like you said, what do you learn by getting your shot in? Not as much as if I get it wrong, like.
But see, it gets harder and harder as you get better at something or as you become more senior. And now you're in a bigger role. So it's like, I expect you to do better is where shit starts to fall apart. Not, why would you expect to do it so well? Now I'm expected to do it well. That's like your best players, Mackie, I'm sure feel that way.
So like, Mackie, this whole discussion we have with you, where you keep asking yourself, why am I not doing better in steady buckets with our coaching as well, right? So I was telling Megan, I was like, you know what, Mackie's forgetting the variable that you totally forgot?
What?
COVID. For the last year and a half, nonprofits and organizations went out of business, like 50% or more. People are depressed, they can't find talent. Like, you had an unexpected inconvenience hit you. Like that idea that hedge funds were like, oh my God, it's so easy to make money in the stock market. Everyone had advice on how to make money in the stock market around a year ago. Not so much on Twitter anymore, right? You'll see that thing die down. And now so which race would you rather run in? Would you rather run in the race where it's so noisy and so crowded and everyone out there is telling you how you should live life? Right? Because everyone's got advice at whatever age, even had a parent, even though they don't have any kids and everything else, right? Or would you rather be in a race where everyone's struggling, but like the strongest get to win and come out? So like, and I found over the years working with the best in the world, Google came out in the downturn. That's one of the best stories I've heard too, talking to Ron, our investor. He said everyone thought search was done. They stopped investing in search. Google tried to sell to Yahoo for like $1 million or $2 million, turned down. They were dying. Like, everyone thought it was done, and they invested in search when no one else was, which is why they won. Like, so how do you find the fight when everyone is out of breath, feeling like I need to vacation, I need to check out, I need to do my eat, pray, love moment for as long as possible? How do you find the fire to go win now when the race is not competitive? It's not noisy. And so the point was, we forget the context. If COVID didn't happen, Mackie, I don't know where you'd be right now, but you'd be in a different place. But so will other nonprofits. You'll be dealing with noise from them, right? And so I think about...
That's a situation you're saying. Situationally aware.
That's part of
the...
There's a part of understanding, this is the part we said awareness. Everything starts with awareness. Everything follows awareness. We're often unaware of the variables and data points happening right now, right? It's not the same situation. Things have changed, right? And to find the fight, you have to gain perspective on what it is now. And oftentimes, the whole mindset, why you're in the red box is like, God, why am I not doing better? Why am I not doing better? Why am I not this? Why is everyone happy and I'm not? It makes it worse. And you have to recognize whether that narrative is true or not. You're not doing yourself any favors by keeping yourself in the red box, right? How do I go, right? And so this is what we're going to talk about next week. And this is the hard part. It's not a positivity talk, by the way. I want you to get more depressed first. And this is the hardest part people don't understand. You need to go deeper into the swamp. And you need the help of others because you think you know how to put yourself in it. You need someone else that hits back, plays tennis, hits the ball back at you as hard as you hit it at them, frustrated, to push you into the point where you'll know when you're done. Because hard shots at you no longer make you flinch or startled, right? That's a place, once you get to, you start to come out. But even the way out, it doesn't start with, oh wow, roses right away. No. It's not clouds parting. It's like, it's not bad as I thought. It's not winning, it's, okay, this isn't as bad as I thought. You'll eventually get to a place where you're like, fucking A, I can win when no one else is winning. No one's investing in search, I can win, right? Like, there's a part, Josh Waitzkin, the chess champion we spent time with, the martial arts, he talks about when he trained to become #1 in this Tai Chi, martial arts, right? How he played against this guy, 6 months, he would be thrown up against the wall so hard that the paint would chip off the wall, and he was convinced he would die. And yet he kept still going, numb, and would go and get thrown up against the wall, and he said, this guy was so powerful, so strong, so fast, I never knew how to beat him. And then one day, when he was going to practice in the dojo, just like, like bruised everywhere, 6 months in, he was like, I'm not dead. Right? That realization, I'm not dead. That day, he saw the guy does the exact same move all the time. Everything suddenly looked like it moved in slow motion. And he beat him that day. And then that guy refused to ever fight him again. And he said, this guy should be at least All-American. But he didn't have the humility at that instance to go and figure out how to adjust. Josh saw him do the exact same move, slow motion, but before he saw it, 6 months of I'm not gonna make it, I'm gonna die, the subtle day of like, I'm not dead, then led to beating him, and then from there, he had to keep working his ass off to become #1 in the world. But like, I know, there's a part where, like, the bad has its place, except I think oftentimes we don't go there. And you need to go twice, 3, 10 times deeper before you start to see the other side. There's only one way out. It's not reversing out. You have to go on the other side. But it's scary because it goes deeper into the dark before you get out. And the only way you know is you're out is when it hits you again or someone says something, your ears don't turn red and you don't get startled and it doesn't like tilt you anymore.
Yeah, otherwise you stay in simmering, you know, that feeling of like, I'm not alive, I'm not dead, I'm just kind of there. And you're just kind of stuck.
It's the idea of being cried out.
Yeah.
Or have you ever had
Yeah.
like that tilty F you, like just so mad? And then after that, someone could say something and even though it's horrible, you still can't get that mad. Or like you've cried out so much that even though like, by the way, did I tell you your house burned down and so died? You're like, that's really terrible. Like, I think you're cried out. Like that's rock bottom. The test comes with a few more data points afterwards, it doesn't do the same job of shutting your brain down. Like, so.
On that really positive note, we should probably wrap
Yes,
up.
yes. We need to go eat food.
Yeah.
Like a lot of it, so
Yeah.
please.
Yes.
But and for those of you guys in the cities, please sign up and come. We want you all here, right? Because you need a little excitement. We're gonna do our best. As Olivia said to me this morning, the hot tub will come at some point, but before that, we got bartenders, we got day chef, and we got a dance party.
Who do you think
we
you
have,
are?
And then we have us teaching leadership, MBA guy coaching basketball, London and Boston are doing their own stuff too. So everyone's trying to out-innovate each other. We're competing, right?
I always want to beat London and Boston. Sorry, we're so competitive.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So
Let's
for
go.
those of you, I see you guys in the London side. You're already like kind of halfway through the day in Boston.
Yeah, bring it.
I'm hoping you have a horrible day compared to us. Right?
No.
But I mean,
Hey, you're not
That's
losing.
true.
You want competition.
Yes, you
You
know.
want to
Now,
up
you know
our
what?
game. Come
I
on.
want you to be mind blown, and then when you hear what we did, you're like, yeah,
Yes.
we just have low standards. Sorry. Nonetheless.
So much coffee. All right, we'll see you guys.